Oliver had gone to the mountains to find a beautiful tree, lying silently in its shade, to die peacefully. He didn't want to go back to where he lived, so he was going to find that tree whatever it takes. He was usually walk away time to time, but it was never been like this. Oliver was a sculptor. He had seen so many places and many people. But he wanted to cross the oceans. No matter how large it was, he couldn't stay on this island. But neither he knew how to swim, nor there was a ship to take him. People valued mud where he lived. On the other hand, he was making sculptures from mud. In general, those who bought his sculptures were people who had no mud left. They were using mud to plaster their houses, to show to their friends, and to apply their faces. But he knew there were other people. He had seen them. He even spent some time with them. And he knew they were from across the oceans. He had understanding those who had living in this island, why they were so tied up with mud, why they were striving to outdo each other. He could feel their loneliness, pains. That's why he was making his sculptures after all. That's how he could get away from his life. That's how he could touch someone else's soul. Or at least, he thought he could touch. But Oliver was tired of all. He was wanting neither to understand nor tell. They had taken everything of him. He no longer had mud or dreams. That's why Oliver had gone to the mountains, to find a beautiful tree, lying silently in its shade, to die peacefully. But they had cut all the trees, to build houses for themselves, for ox carts, meals, tables, chairs. But he would find a beautiful tree. He crossed the hills, saw a flowing river, and hoped. He followed the river and came across a mill. This mill was made of stone, and it wasn't covered in mud. He was little surprised. It was getting dark, and Oliver couldn't find his tree. Inside was a man who was white from floor top to bottom. The man was surprised first. Then he asked what he wanted. Oliver said he was looking for a beautiful tree, for making sculpture of it and sell it, cause he had neither lodging nor food, he said. Miller stared at Oliver for a while. He didn't believe what he said, of course, but he didn't say anything either, just welcomed him. He gave a piece of fresh bread and said he could stay for the night if he wanted to. After some thought, Oliver agreed. He would go on his way tomorrow. At dinner, Miller mentioned that trees he was looking for existed in a small village far from here. He added that someone from village comes once a week to buy flour from him. Miller offered if he works at the mill with him, he can stay here until next week, with a place to sleep and food. Oliver didn't want to believe him at first. Who could live in a village without cutting trees? But in this place, there was a mill from stone and never used mud. What Miller said was worth a try. But he weren't hopeful at all, cause he had known so much people, and all of them had made him disappointed. In this isolated place, he thought the miller built his mill from stone cause of no trees. But why wasn't it covered with mud? And also nothing was. It was not a big deal. They were all had a reason. And Oliver knew very well what anyone would do for a little mud if they had chance. But even so, it was worth a try. He didn't want to die next to a stone. Oliver had come to the mountains to find a beautiful tree, lying silently in its shade, to die peacefully. Days passed away. He worked with Miller every day. In the evening, Miller talked about life briefly at dinner, but never talked about himself. Oliver didn't ask either. No matter how much he listened, they were the things he already knew. He wasn't surprised, but didn't judge. When people were collecting memories, He hadn't even begun to live yet. Days passed. Man from village came. His speech was smooth. His clothes were appropriate, as if not from an unknown village. Oliver looked at him with trying to hide his confusion. He was looking like a man from across the oceans. Then Oliver told the villager what he told the miller, that he looking for a beautiful tree for making sculpture of it, and said it. Villager offered he could come with him. Also he would be very glad for that, and mentioned there were many trees like he was looking for. At first Oliver didn't want to believe, but what could have happened he thinked. He was already be dead anyway. He just wanted to happen with a little peace. After a long way they reached the village. Oliver couldn't take his eyes off greenery. He didn't see anything about the mud. People were all smiling, and they were looking at Oliver as if to say welcome. Oliver didn't want to be distracted, and said he wanted to take a walk around. He left them for a while. After wandering around a little, found the tree he was looking for, just outside of the village, on a small hill, big oak tree. It had a huge body, with long branches, as if to prove it had been there for centuries. But Oliver was tired, didn't want to die right away, but also he didn't know what to do. Villager approached Oliver, and mentioned they were going to banquet in the evening. He offered to join them if he didn't want to make his sculpture immediately. At first Oliver thought for a moment. Then in this stunning the beautiful village, having a nice evening with these nice people, he decided to enjoy his last supper. A long table was set, music played, everyone was happy. And no one bothered Oliver with questions. Snacks were being eaten, drinks were being drunk. They all were chattering and were laughing out time to time. Meanwhile they were getting ready for the big dinner. Oliver was sitting quietly but peacefully, and sometimes he even laughed with others. The villager called Oliver, saying he was going to show him something. They went to the kitchen where the main meal was preparing. Villager picked up a shovel from the ground and knocked Oliver down with hitting his head. Altogether they lifted him and threw it into the cauldron. And after cooked well, they had the feast they wanted. They threw his bones under the oak tree, and they all went home for sleeping with smiles on their faces. Oliver had gone to the mountains to find a beautiful tree, lying silently in its shade, to die peacefully.